So can you tell us who you are and where we are?
Hello, I'm Derpy the Deer. My real name is Jonathan Mitchell, and we are at Texas Furry Fiesta in Dallas, Texas.
All right. So some people watching this don't know what a furry is, or can you explain what that is?
So the furry fandom is just the like of anthropomorphic animals, and all that means is that you like animals with human characteristics, and that could be anything from like Simba from The Lion King to a full-on me, like a fursuiter. It just means you just enjoy the art and the style and the creation of animals that have human characteristics.
I'm Dr. Courtney Plons. I go by Nuka to the fandom, and I'm a social psychologist at Bishop's University in Quebec, Canada. A big surprising thing about the furry fandom is that so much content is created by the fandom itself. So compared to, say, Star Wars or Harry Potter, where one person or one company gets to decide what counts as canon, what is official and what isn't, almost every furry enters the fandom with an act of creation. Most furries have what's called a fursona, a furry persona that they create, and this is your character, and it's typically an original character that you don't see in a show, that you don't see anywhere else.
As I've created different characters, I've imbued them with specific facets of my own personality. KP, which is my oldest character, is my inner child. So he is everything I always wanted to be as a kid. He was really cute. He was attractive and popular. He had lots of friends. Everybody wanted to be around him. My other characters, I have a quagga, which is an extinct zebra-like animal, went extinct in 1884. He represents my parental side. So he's the protector.
You get this wonderful creativity in the furry fandom, creating species that no one else has seen, hybrids that no one has seen before. And yeah, we even find, just in terms of the demographics of the creators themselves, 35% of furries have tried their hand at drawn art. 20% are musicians.
We write songs not about like the reality of anthropomorphized animal people, but more furry culture itself. Like we have a song about fursuiting. We have two different songs about fursuiting. We wrote an entire musical concept album thing called One Weekend, which is about the experience of going to a furry convention. While at the same time, just to be extra weird, every character in that musical is themselves an animal person.
Yep.
Do you perform in a fursuit? Have you tried that, or does that not?
I certainly do, yeah. I actually have a fursuit, and the paws are specifically designed for my fingers to be able to play piano.
One thing that sort of makes the furry fandom somewhat distinct from other fan groups is they've got a very significant LGBTQ population. About 80% of furries falls into the LGBTQ umbrella.
25 years ago, I was a female singer-songwriter and playing in the local area of Bay Area, California. And all of a sudden, this one guy shows up and he says, I've got some friends, but they can't come in because they're too big to fit in the coffee house. And they want you to come out and meet them. And I went out to the parking lot, and here's this whole collection of incredibly tall, fuzzy creatures all waving at me and wanting to give me hugs. And I'm like, what are you guys? And he goes, we're furries, and we love your music because you've always got animals in them. We wanted to meet you. So that was how I met them, and that's how I started, and they have stuck with me ever since, all through the 20 years career as a female, and now 15 years as a male. And they have been with me right there.
So you say you transitioned 15 years ago?
Yes.
How is that? How is it being trans in the furry community? Because it seems pretty accepting of the LGBTQ
yes.
in here.
Oh, it was the first place to genuinely accept me and get me.
The fandom has these norms of inclusivity, of self-expression, of be yourself, and you're not going to be looked down upon or treated differently for that. And I think all of those things make it very inviting for a person who, in other parts of their life, they may not feel welcome. They might feel like they have to conceal part of themselves. The fandom really isn't a place where you have to do that.
This is where I belong, and this is where I'm going to be accepted, and this is where I can feel safe to be myself and safe to just talk about like what I'm going through. And it's an amazing outlet, and it's really honestly saved my life.
There's a lot of people out there that are not doing what they need to do to be who they truly are. Okay. And they're not honoring that truth. And that's what we stand for. We stand for having enough bravery and enough creativity to figure out how to do it. Because we can't all be who we are all the time. But at least try to be who you are at least once a day.
a lot of furries that we studied have compared the process of coming out as LGBTQ as being analogous to coming out as a furry, and oftentimes they kind of go hand in hand. Coming out as one often goes hand in hand with coming out as the other. And I think part of it has to do with the fact that they're both stigmatized identities. They're both identities that in some contexts, in some places, if you were to mention that this was part of who you were, you might get treated differently from it. You might get looked down upon for it.
We have had instances of people whose families have created rifts because they found out they were part of the furry fandom because they don't understand it. There are some members of the LGBTQ community whose families have found out not only that they were furry, but they were part of the LGBTQ community and been disowned. They were kicked out of their homes, had no place to go, they've had to start their lives over.
Is your family aware that you're a furry, and how
So-
have they reacted to that?
They're fine with the furry thing. I think for me, it's like there was a lot of other stresses with, decisions, quote unquote decisions that they think that I've made that don't align with their view of reality. And for me, they didn't care about the furry stuff at all, but it was just the other stuff that was kind of a problem.
Being in costume or being incognito allows them the ability to talk to others that have similar problems or maybe encountering other things, and it gives them the support structure they need to figure out how they can deal with maybe bigger life problems.
It is a family, basically. Everyone's so welcome, everyone is so supportive. I feel like we all push each other to be a better for ourselves.
The more people get to know furries and they see we're not that different from everybody else, we just have a different interest, but we still eat the same kinds of foods, we go to the same shopping centers and movies, we tend to watch a lot of the same cultural television shows, we just like them for variously different reasons. As people get to know us and see that we can create very interesting and very exciting new things, people have become more accepting of it. But the initial reaction, I think, is people make fun of us because it's just different and they don't get it, they don't understand it.
Before you judge a community, please just get to know it and look into it. Don't just be like, oh, they're wearing suits, oh, I heard they do this, that's on the story. There's a lot more to it than just, the basic what's on the surface. And again, all that's on the surface now is people think all we do is have sex, which is not true at all.
If you can understand who a furry was, you can understand who a furry is. We were that fat kid that got picked on at school. We were the skinny kid that never really got picked for recess. We were the brainy kid that people wanted to cheat off of, but never invited to parties. We were that kid at the dances that stood on the wall hoping someone would invite him to a party. We were all of those people, plus more, who craved social acceptance from our peers, but never got it at school. Where we did find it was in the happy, smiling faces of the characters that we saw on television, because they didn't judge us. That's who we were. Who are we today? We're people who simply never forgot our childhood friends. If you can make that connection, you'll figure out about 90% of who furries really are.